Hello.
Hello. We're back.
We are indeed back. Yeah.
Well,
I have a weird energy today. I'm very tired.
here we are. You're listening to the Generally Spooky podcast.
You are. Episode 7. Can you believe we're on episode 7
Damn.
of season 3?
I can actually. That's mental.
We're fast approaching the end.
Yeah, we are. Considering how panicked we were to start this season while launching the Patreon and launching merch.
That was like 2 months ago.
Mental.
Isn't it?
Mental. Well, we hope you're enjoying.
We are.
We're having a great time.
This has been a great season. I've loved it. Odin's here in his bed.
Rattling around, as always. As always. I have some Bird and Blend tea. Ooh, yummy.
As do I.
Which you can order yourself if you'd like to support the podcast through the link in the description. We keep forgetting to say that because we're professional. But it's there.
So professional.
As professional as they come. And it's in my Generally Spooky podcast mug.
Which you can also buy at generallyspooky.com.
Yeah.
Which lots of you have been. Thank you so much.
Yeah, quite a few of you have ordered mugs now.
The mugs have been super popular.
They have. The bug's not so popular.
No.
But
I should have known really, because everyone likes a mug. I
does?
love buying mugs.
Who doesn't love a mug? The designer we got to do one of the designs, we gave her a voucher to get a free one. Lou, I think her name was.
Yeah.
And her husband barred her from spending it on a mug.
Which I think is grounds for dismissal, really.
Get him out.
Mm-hmm. Oh, get rid.
If we need more space for mugs, why don't we move you out?
No, you're crap. But yeah, thank you if you have bought a mug already. And if you haven't, but you want to, they're on the Generally Spooky website.
Yeah,
generallyspooky.com. You can find them all there.
generallyspooky.com.
There's t-shirts, there's hoodies, all sorts.
Yep. We've got it. You can buy it. Need to work on my slogan. That's as bad as from our mouths to your ears.
Yeah, not great.
No.
Not great. I was going to say, for Bird and Blend, please make sure you use the link that we have. Because if you do that and get yourself some really nice tea, we get a little commission.
Yeah, we do.
They have graciously agreed to support the podcast, which is very, very nice.
It is.
And the tea's great.
It is really nice. I'm drinking the strawberry lemonade tea. I had a peppermint one the other night, which was so tasty.
It smelled amazing.
It smelled so good.
Really soothing. I'm having chocolate digestive tea because it's my favourite and I'm boring. Once I find something I like, that's all I want to have.
Yep, it's true.
I do it at every restaurant we go to. I always order this. If I like something, I order the same thing every time.
Yep. You find it, you like it, you stick with it.
Because if we go to that restaurant, we're going and I want to have that one thing because that's what I have at that restaurant.
It's true. So you could do that too with your own chocolate digestive tea.
Absolutely. I would highly recommend it. It's so good. I don't know how they do it, but it tastes like chocolate biscuits.
Yeah.
They've also been posting a lot about their matcha at the moment.
Oh, yeah.
Which I'm curious about. I've never really had matcha.
I'm not a big matcha fan, but I know a lot of people are.
I have had a matcha Kit Kat before.
Oh, yeah.
And it was really nice. It was strange, but it was good. But I've never had like a matcha latte, like bright green.
I've had matcha lattes. I think matcha like milkshakes or something. I've had a matcha like ice cream ones. Just not for me, the taste.
Fair.
But if you like it, I'm sure their tea of it is delicious.
Yeah, they have it. You can go get it using our link.
Before we get stuck in today, have a cool announcement, because Steve from the Haunted UK podcast has sent over his promo for you. So listen up to that, and if you like it, you should go and check it out, because it's another awesome UK-based spooky podcast. And if you're here from the Haunted UK podcast, then we hope you stick around and enjoy.
Are you interested in stories of ghosts, poltergeists and the paranormal? Do you love an amazing tale of an unsolved mystery, a strange disappearance? How about a UFO encounter or even a first-hand sighting of a creature that should only exist in your nightmares? Why not join us over at the Haunted UK podcast, where every 2 weeks we delve deep into the tales of the strange and unusual, the unsolved and the downright weird. The Haunted UK podcast is available on all major platforms, as well as being on Instagram and Coffee. So why not give us a follow and get involved with the show? Thanks for listening, and we really hope you'll join us for our next episode. And on that note, it's back to the show.
Well, now that all the bumps out the way, what do we have today? What have you got?
Well, we're kind of going back to our roots this week.
Ooh.
Doing arguably what we do best. Because today we have a ghost story.
Ooh, we're spooking.
Mm-hmm. More of a spooky episode this week. I kind of keep, or it's not even that I keep them, I weigh the season that is over Halloween more heavily with spooky stuff. And the other season is sort of interesting history based a bit more.
Oh, that's fair. Well, it's bright sunshine outside today, which is lovely. It's been a long winter, so it's nice to be coming out of it. But it's not the spooky season out there.
No, I feel like you appreciate a ghost story more at Halloween and when the nights are dark.
Yeah.
But today we have a ghost story.
Excellent.
Now, if you'll remember, way back in season 1, which feels like a lifetime ago, but I don't even think it was a year ago, we were talking about the Black Lady of Lark Hall.
Yes, we were.
One of my favourite episodes that we've ever done. It stands out in my head. I love it. Everything about it. I love researching it. It's very spooky. And it's a well-known ghost story. That's what Lark Hall is kind of known for. And it was really interesting to learn about and talk about. And we kind of looked into the history of the place as well.
Absolutely.
That's kind of what we're doing today.
Ooh.
This is a similar episode. And I had a similar experience with this episode that I had last time, where I really did a deep dive into this person. And it creeped me out a little bit.
Well, that's good. I think it's more interesting when, it's the ghost of somebody and you get to learn about that somebody, other than just, it's a ghost. We don't know who it is.
The historical facts of this story line up with there actually being a ghost. There's a lot of historical documentation of this person. They really existed. And Freudian slip there. And the story of what happened to her would lend itself to a ghost story.
Okay, I'm down.
I hope you're intrigued. I'm excited to tell you, because it's spooky.
It's spooky. We're here. I'm excited. Hopefully the listener's excited. Presumably if they're not, they just stop listening and now they're doing something else.
Well, if this isn't your thing, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm not going to judge you.
We don't mind. It's not for you. That's okay. But if it is, we're here and we're spooking.
This week, we're talking about Comlongon Castle and the story of Marion Carruthers, the Green Lady.
Ooh.
I'm going to check I'm saying Comlongon right before we get into it.
Come along and listen up. Well, that was difficult.
Hopefully, that was a smooth transition for you, and you listening have had no interruption. We just had to take 10 minutes to try and find one person saying Comlongon Castle to ensure that I'm saying it correctly.
I know, I'm almost gutted that you were saying it correctly.
Oh.
It would be much more satisfying if you were saying it wrong.
Oh, so aggravating. So from what I can tell, the people at Comlongon Castle called it Comlongon Castle. So that's how I'm going to proceed.
That's what we're going with.
But, if I'm wrong, please don't hesitate to just roast me in comments and reviews. It's fine. We did our due diligence, and that's what we're going with.
We tried, okay? We tried.
I'm super aware of it after saying Boleskine House wrong for the whole episode.
That has stuck with you.
I've never shaken it off.
Wait, is Boleskine? It's not Boleskine.
No, Boleskine is how you're supposed to say it. And I said Boleskine House the entire episode.
To be fair, it's spelled Boleskine House.
It is, but that's not how you say it. That's not how Scottish place names work. You know that.
No.
Och, spelled Avoch.
Yeah, that confused me till I was in my mid-teens.
Oh, okay.
Well, so today we're talking about
Comlongon Castle.
Yay!
And the story of Marion Carruthers, the Green Lady. I hope you have the shivers and the spooks, because this is a spooky story. Comlongon Castle is near Dumfries in the south of Scotland.
Yep, with you.
It's really quite close to the Scotland-England border, so it's very far south, which we'll talk about later because it's relevant to the history of the castle. It's to the east of Dumfries, the town.
Okay.
And to the west of Ecclefechan, which I take any opportunity to talk about because I love the name Ecclefechan.
Ecclefechan is a tremendous word. Mm-hmm. Some of one of my friends on Facebook pointed out, instead of counting in Mississippis, you could replace it with like a good Scottish word, and that's one of them. You could do 1 Ecclefechan, 2 Ecclefechan, 3 Ecclefechan.
It's a good word.
It's a good word. It's a good place.
When I saw how close it was, I had to include it.
You have to bring it up. Are you an Ecclefecker if you're from Ecclefechan?
Only if you're bad.
An Ecclefecite?
Ecclefechanite.
Ecclefecian.
Ecclefechanist. Sorry if you're from Ecclefechan. We respect you.
Yeah, I've never even been there. It might be nice.
Oh, it's just such a good word.
Such a good word. It's weird hearing Dumfries without and Galloway.
Well, I mean, it's in Dumfries and Galloway, but it's near the town of Dumfries.
Not Galloway.
No, it's further from Galloway. It's really close to the Solway Firth, which is on the west coast of Scotland. So in the narrow bit at the bottom. Mm-hmm. It's difficult to explain without a visual aid, but the Scottish border kind of starts south and then goes north as you travel east. It's at a diagonal.
Yeah.
Right? So Comlongon is on the west coast of Scotland, but it's in that little narrow bit, that really narrow portion of the island of Great Britain. If you go straight across from Comlongon eastward, you hit Newcastle if you draw a straight line.
Oh, okay. I forget how north Newcastle is.
Mm-hmm. And it's because it's at that diagonal.
Yeah.
So it's at the really narrow bit and it's on the west coast, basically. Right on the border of southern Scotland.
Yep, sounds good.
And I hope I've explained that fairly well, but I'll try and have a picture somewhere.
Pictures.
But you can Google map it, you can see where it is. We have the technology.
We do.
From what I was able to find, the area around Comlongon was first mentioned in 1331.
Okay.
When a man called Thomas Randolph gave the land and apparently some unnamed sort of castle buildings to his nephew. That's the first time there's a written record of that area.
Very nice, very nice.
And Thomas Randolph was an important guy. He's another one of the big names in the wars of Scottish independence. And I wrote in my notes here for the script that we should create some kind of bingo card for podcast episodes. And you can tick off a box every time I mention the Wars of Independence or James VI or the witch trials. And then you get points at the end for how many I actually say.
Yeah, maybe it'll turn into like a drinking game.
Maybe. Because they come up a lot.
Yeah.
But he was one of the big names. We don't need to know too much about him, but he was Robert the Bruce's nephew.
Cool.
So nephew of the King of Scotland, which came with some influence.
Yep, it's pretty good.
Grandeur. And Bruce made Randolph the very first Earl of Murray, which is pretty much the area we're in now.
Very nice. Thanks to his Uncle Bob.
Uncle Bob. Thanks, Bob. Randolph is famous for managing to take Edinburgh Castle back from the English during the Wars of Independence.
Good work.
And he was one of the nobles that signed the Declaration of Arbroath.
Which we talked about in the last episode, yep.
No, we talked about the Ragman Roll.
Oh.
The Declaration of Arbroath is different.
Oh, okay.
We learned a bit about it at the National Museum. They've painted some of the words from the Declaration on the wall. Mm-hmm. And this was basically a letter that a group of Scottish nobles sent to the Pope, asking him to recognise Scotland as an independent country.
Oh, yep.
They wanted him to recognise Robert the Bruce as King of Scotland and retain Scotland's independence from England.
That's the dream.
Very important document. Quite amazing, but that's a story for another time. But Thomas Randolph was one of the people who signed that declaration. So he's an important guy.
Yeah.
Another fact that won't become significant until later this season...
Okay.
...is that Thomas Randolph had a daughter called Agnes. But that's all I'm going to say on that.
Okay, not Agnes Sampson.
No, Agnes Randolph. He had a daughter called Agnes Randolph.
Okay.
But that won't become significant for another couple of episodes.
How exciting. Well, let's see if I remember. Oh, no.
Now, I'm going to have to try and talk about the people in the story without laughing, because they have a very silly name. And at my core, I am an immature child, so I feel like I'm going to at least grin every time I say it. So I'm just warning you now, because I know you're going to laugh.
Probably. Well, we just discussed Ecclefeckin for far too long.
This is better. This is way better.
Okay.
Thomas Randolph was given the land around Comlongon, and I already said that he gave the land and the buildings to his nephew.
Mm-hmm.
Randolph's nephew was called Sir William Murray of Cockpool. I'll try not to bring it up too often so we can at least pretend to be mature adults, but every time I wrote it down, it's like, oh, Kieran's going to laugh. It's going to completely undercut my story because I'm talking about cockpools.
I laughed the first time I was on the London Tube when we were going past Cockfosters. Made me laugh. Pointing me out singularly as both a tourist and a man. Like, Cockfosters.
So yes, Sir William Murray of Cockpool.
Yep.
And the family who have had Comlongon for a very, very long time are the Murrays of Cockpool. So there you go.
So where is this pool of cocks?
Do you really want to know? Are you sure? Think about what you're asking. Just consider it for a second. So William Murray was given the castle in the 1300s, from what we can see, or the site that the castle now was on.
Yep.
The area.
Yeah.
The castle didn't exist the way that we understand it, is what I'm saying. The Murrays had lived in this area for at least 100 years before being given this land specifically. There's a church nearby called Ruthwell Church, and the Murrays have been buried there since the 1200s.
Cool.
So that's how we know they've been in the area for a long time.
Yeah.
Ruthwell Church is interesting in itself because there's a famous monument inside it called the Ruthwell Cross. Mm-hmm. And it's an 18-foot Anglo-Saxon carved cross.
Very cool.
18 feet.
That is ginormous.
It's like almost 2 stories.
Yeah. Jeez, huh?
Mm-hmm. And it's carved with religious imagery and runes around the outside, all things carved into it. Mm. It's very, very impressive. I've seen photos and it's huge. During the Reformation, when Scotland was making the change religiously, the cross was deemed too papish for the people in charge of the Reformation. They didn't like it. So the ministers of Ruthwell broke the cross into pieces and hid it away. They buried it outside so that it wouldn't be completely destroyed.
Fair. That is the better of the two options.
Apparently the biggest piece I read was used as a pew in the church for a really long time.
Wow.
It's that big. Like the main column.
Yeah.
They used it as a pew.
Jeez, oh.
Which seems insane. Like you're parking your butt on a major piece of history.
I know.
Every week.
Ew.
But it's better than it being destroyed completely.
Yes, absolutely.
So we've reached the 1400s now. Mm-hmm. And this is when Comlongon Castle was first built.
Okay.
By Cuthbert Cockpool. What a name.
That is quite something.
What a name. I'm not even making it up either.
I know.
That was actually his name. His parents gave him that name.
They went, I mean, how many names can you put with Cockpool?
None. It shouldn't be a name to be... Anyway. He was still a Murray. That was his family name. But the name Cockpool, I think, is like the title name of somewhere.
Yeah, I wonder if it was a place.
I don't know. I'm not sure. It's just a damn shame.
It's just a shame.
Like, why would you do that?
Yeah. No, it shows our power. We had lots of roosters, you know. Yeah.
There is some dispute over exactly when the castle was built. Some people think it was actually built by Cuthbert's son in the early 1500s.
Okay.
Not the 1400s, like some other people claim. We're in the right window, even if we're not completely accurate. It's around the same time, but with anything that happened a long time ago, it's difficult to tell when there aren't exact records to look back on.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter within, say, 50 years.
Yeah, it's within that area. We're in the right spot of history. And the castle was built in the tower house style, which we've talked about before.
Yep.
On the podcast. It's really distinctive and it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a large stone tower with a triangular roof made of stone.
Very nice.
Tall. They were easy to defend, and I think that's one of the reasons they were popular, because you were going for height rather than a large footprint.
Yeah.
You could defend it. And it was a really well kitted out estate. Like, they had the castle, but at Comlongon they had a brewery, a granary, multiple workshops and outbuildings that they used.
Very cool.
They had stables, and they had their own well, so they could sustain themselves. They had their own means of feeding themselves, watering themselves.
That's pretty good.
And the castle used to be surrounded by its own moat.
Oh, always cool.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
It had a moat.
That is cool. I've always wanted to, to see a functioning moat. Because whenever you visit a modern day castle, there's always a dip. Well, it could have been full of water, maybe, but who knows?
The only time I think I've seen a moat was when we went to France on a school trip. Do you remember?
That does seem familiar.
And there's the castle town. Like the whole town was built inside castle walls.
Oh, yeah.
What was that?
I don't remember. Don't remember.
It was really cool. Like, we walked around there for a whole day, and there was a big drawbridge and what looked to be a moat, but I don't think it was full of water.
It never is. I mean, I suppose it's quite hard to keep it full of water with no benefit.
Yeah. But that's the only time I think I've seen a moat.
Yeah. Very cool. Very
I think
cool to have
Codder
your moat.
Castle used to have a moat.
Well, that's what I was thinking of, because they've got the drawbridge, which is over the big sunken kind of trench, which is now full of grass. And well, that could have been full of water.
Yeah. But yeah, Comlongon Castle used to have one. I'll tell you now, it's not there anymore. Just straight up right from the beginning, and it's disappointing. But there used to be a moat.
Very cool.
So it really is everything you imagine when you think of a medieval castle. Mm-hmm. With everything that they had there.
Yeah, absolutely. That's very cool.
Some records say that Comlongon never saw combat.
Oh.
That it was just a building of status and prestige. It was their estate and they built it to lord it up. But other people say that it experienced a fair share of combat because of raids that were held by the English, because it's so close to that border.
That's what I was thinking. It would be an easy first target.
Yeah.
Well, not necessarily easy, but like an obvious first target.
It's easy to reach.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of taking the differing opinions to mean that it wasn't attacked during war.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't sieged or it didn't see battle. But it was a target for, like, what's the word? Reavers. Border reavers and thieves and things. So I think both can be right at the same time.
Yeah, I think so. I'd suggest that no one important was ever there while it was being sieged, if it was.
No, I don't think it was sieged. I think it was just a target of these border raids, which were really, really common. It was quite a dangerous area to live in around the Scotland-England border. Because in case you didn't know, Scotland and England didn't really get along at this time. Maybe you'd never heard that before, but they weren't really getting on.
That's brand new information.
By the 1400s, the Wars of Independence had officially ended. But relations, particularly at the border, were still a bit strained and they weren't great. Raids happened in both countries, carried out by people on both sides. So Scots people would carry out raids in England. They might kidnap people for ransom, steal, and people from England would do the same on the Scottish side of the border. It was really volatile, and it was quite dangerous just to live there.
It makes sense.
Because you were a target. The closer you were to the border.
The further we are from harm.
I did read, though, that part of the reason that England and Scotland were still at odds in this period was because England was at war with France, but Scotland supported France. So they were kind of at odds politically.
Well, that would just give you a bit of tension, wouldn't you?
But they weren't officially at war during this time.
Yeah.
All that was ended for the moment.
They were at unofficial war.
Yeah. But you know what I mean? Like, there was no official reason. They were just almost like antagonizing each other, really.
And if you were a band of reavers, you'd much rather rob your neighbour than rob yourself.
Exactly. You might be harder to find, too.
Oh, yeah.
If you can cross a border, if you've committed a crime. In the 1500s, so jumping ahead a little bit, John Murray, who was Cuthbert's son, was made a baron for the first time. And so became the Baron of Cockpool. Now he's the boss. Now he has a name in Cockpool.
I mean, I suppose you'd rather have it than not have it, but it's just a shame.
I guess if you could choose whether to be the Baron of Cockpool or just Cockpool, you might as well lean into it.
Yep.
Now, in the 16 or the 1700s, I've seen both. A mansion was built and it was added on to the original tower house of the castle, which I mentioned already. By this time, there was also a great hall, which is very fitting for a castle. But Comlongon also had something called a yett at this time, Y-E-T-T. Have you heard of a yett before?
No, don't think so.
It's basically a big metal gate
Oh.
Like, it's on a hinge, and you can open it just like a gate. It's like a big metal grid gate. I don't know if you've seen them before. You might have them on like the other side of an exterior door to a castle.
Yes.
Or a building.
Yep.
But what's surprising about this one in particular is that it still survives. It's still there. Because in 1606, the Privy Council, who we've talked about, we've mentioned, they made a lot of legal decisions for Scotland at the time. They had decided that yetts weren't legal anymore to try and put an end to lots of kidnapping and raiding that was going on. They decided that all the yetts needed to be destroyed because then you couldn't hole yourself up in a building as easily.
Yeah. Seems a strange one, though, because you couldn't keep them out as easily.
Yeah.
Before they can then come in to bar themselves. Strange.
It sounds a lot like when we were talking about Stirling Castle and Robert the Bruce got rid of all the defences of the castle on purpose.
Yeah,
so that if it were taken, it couldn't be held.
Yep, that makes sense.
I think this is a similar idea. But the yett at Comlongon survived. For some reason, they didn't get rid of that one. And I don't really know why.
Yeah.
But it's not something you'll see very often.
Maybe they just hid it behind another wooden door.
Hid this massive metal gate.
Yep.
No yet here.
No yet here. Have to look somewhere else.
By the time that we officially reached the 1700s, the main castle keep had kind of fallen into disrepair. It wasn't used, it wasn't properly utilised or cared for, so it really wasn't the fortress that it had been in the past. And I think part of this might be that the barons that I mentioned, they had other titles. It seems like they had other land in different places that they owned. They were also the Viscounts of Stormont, and the main seat for that particular title was at Scone Palace.
Oh, okay.
So that seems to be the main hub of the Murray family.
Yeah.
And I can't say I blame them. Given the choice between the two, Scone Palace is much more grand.
Absolutely. And much further away from danger if you're getting raided.
Yeah, Scone is near Perth.
Yeah.
It's much further north.
Further away from the border.
So, I would probably choose Scone.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
They were also made the Earls of Mansfield, who I think had land in Middlesex, which is in England. So they had land down there too. So they have a lot of estates, so they're not living there, so they're not really taking care of it.
Well, because then it would go to disrepair, and you'd want to go less because it was in disrepair, and it would fall further into disrepair.
Exactly.
And if it wasn't a particularly profitable hub, I think a good sense in that.
Yeah, so I think it was just sort of the natural progression of things that led to the castle getting kind of ruined. Fun fact, not strictly related to this episode, but kind of. The Earls of Mansfield, that title, they are the hereditary keepers of Loch Mabin Castle, which we actually talked about in the Black Lady of Lark Hall episode.
Did we?
Yes, we did. Because there are stories of a vampire around Loch Mabin.
Oh, nice.
Who Tom Robertson, the famous Scottish ghost hunter, had been trying to find and I think get rid of. But he hunted for the Loch Mabin vampire. And Loch Mabin is in the area around Comlongon. It's quite close.
It's a lot of very cool titles. The Hereditary Keeper.
I know.
A Viscount. I don't really know what a Viscount is.
It's just an aristocratic title.
Yeah.
Kind of like an earl or whatever.
But is it a biscuit as well?
Yes.
The little ones with the green
mint
foil.
Ones,
yeah.
So yeah, vampires.
Very cool.
Tangent, but I want to bring it up because it's cool.
Because it's vampires.
Yeah.
The echo-feckin' vampires.
So with all the land and power that the Murray family had with all these titles, they can't live in them all of the time. And I have in my notes what we talked about, that you would want to be in the most prestigious of these to kind of show off your wealth.
Yeah, if you were in the aristocracy, you would
we are not.
No. Nor do I have any desire to be.
No.
We wouldn't be a very good aristocrat.
No, I don't think we would.
No. Too much of a pleb.
I mean, I think we're both wearing Crocs right now. I think that automatically discounts us.
I put shoes on, actually.
Oh, well, I'm in Crocs. And they're covered in fence paint because I have to paint my own fence.
Yeah, you'd be into status and all that sort of thing, so you definitely want the prestige.
Yeah, you would want people to know that that's where you live, I think. The castle's bad luck continued because the mansion that I said had been added caught fire and basically completely burned down.
That's not good.
And they're not really putting the money into it, so they didn't rebuild it.
I can't imagine them doing that.
Which is another thing that kind of, I don't want to say, is degraded the right word? Do you know what I mean? Like, it further ruined the castle.
Yeah. Just another black mark on it, very literally.
Yeah, and now it would cost even more money to get back to a livable state.
And you'd want to go there even less because there's this big burnt down ruin.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Now, I read that another mansion was built in the 1800s, so a bit later. But I also read that the mansion house that's there now wasn't built until the year 1900. So I don't know, I'm not sure. I saw both.
It's funny there's so many differing opinions for this.
Yeah, it's not very clear. Not a whole lot is written about Comlongon Castle.
Interesting.
Surprisingly little.
Well, I'm curious how the Green Lady gets there.
Right. It seems to have had quite a quiet history. There's not much of note, and the people who own it didn't really live there. And
then, I suppose if nobody lived there and nobody passed there, no one would want to siege it or attack it or try and claim it.
Well, no. One of the guys who owns it later said that was one of the reasons that it was safe when Cromwell invaded.
Oh, yeah.
Because nobody was there, so they didn't bother.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very strange. There's a lot of differing opinions and dates, and not a lot said.
Yeah.
It's bizarre.
That's really weird.
For somewhere that's so old. But a new mansion was built, and they used a lot of the stone from the ruined buildings.
Oh, yeah.
To build this new mansion.
Makes sense.
Which is good. And this is also when you can blame someone for ruining the moat, because this is when they got rid of it.
Oh.
When they built the new mansion.
Man.
They got rid of the moat.
I wonder how. Did they have to, bucket it out like a sinking ship?
I'm not sure how you would drain it.
How do you unmoat something? It depends what's keeping the water in, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Because I guess if you just broke the sides, it would eventually soak into the ground, but then you turn everything into a bog.
Yeah.
I really don't know.
I don't know. Bastards, though.
I know. Seems such a shame to get rid of it. When they rebuilt this mansion house, they actually kept a lot of the original features of the castle.
Oh, yeah.
That made it quite castle-y. They kept the dungeons. They brought them back into a sort of manageable state. The Great Hall, there was a Great Hall again, and they kind of rebuilt parts of the keep. So it was maintained, but it wasn't really grand.
Yeah, and that's fair.
At this point.
They definitely asked, the man in charge about the dungeons. I mean, they probably asked about everything, because old sexism. But I was definitely should we put dungeons in? Fuck yeah, I want to have dungeons in there. So what are you going to do with them? It's the year 1900. You can't put people in your dungeon anymore. I don't know, turn into a wine cellar. But I totally want a dungeon.
Who says I'm the one with the dungeon? I can say what I do.
And no one will hear you scream.
Now we're properly into the 1900s, and we're getting into a little bit of spooky. Just a little bit.
A little bit of spooky.
A little bit. Work was being done in the basement of the castle, and they were excavating parts of it to get it back into somewhere where it was safe to exist. And when they were working on the walls, they found cats in the walls.
That's very traditional, isn't it?
Very. Creepy cats in the wall.
Ooh.
And when I looked into it, apparently this is quite common in old buildings, sometimes ancient buildings, because people have found cats in the walls of old buildings all over the place, all over the UK, all over Europe.
I've heard of that. It's a thing,
and they're called dried cats.
Oh,
which is an awful name.
Fancy a snack? Shall I get some dried cat?
Wait. Some people say that the cats used to be walled in when they were still alive. But tests that have been done on lots of the cats that have been found show that this isn't the case. That they had already died and then were put into the walls.
Oh, it's cool they proved that. That's what I thought got done.
Well, I think maybe it happens sometimes. I don't know, but on a lot of the ones that they've tested, they've effectively done post-mortems and found that they were already dead.
Interesting.
And part of the reason they know is because when they find the cats, because they mummify,
Oh, yeah.
they're posed as if they're hunting when they're in the wall.
Oh.
Which is obviously done on purpose.
That's weird.
Like they don't just die like that.
Yeah.
And, sorry.
In my head, it was, I can't remember where I learned it, but you do it in the fireplace. It was behind the fireplace is where you put a dead cat. And it was to, like, keep spirits away. Or
Yeah, that's the main reason. They felt that cats were sort of more connected to the spirit realm, spirit world, and that they were able to ward off bad spirits.
Yeah.
So they put them in the walls, and that would protect the building and the people living in it from harm.
And keep out mice.
Not anymore.
Ghost mice. Keep out ghost mice.
Ghost mice, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were used to protect the home and bring good luck to the people in it. And they did this at Comlongon.
Very creepy, though.
Very creepy to find. And cats weren't the only thing that was used to do this either. Some people would seal up shoes
Oh, yeah.
inside the wall. Like, that's a really common thing. You find shoes. And witch bottles are another common find.
What's that?
People fill little glass bottles with things inside that make up a kind of spell or a ward. You seal it into the wall and it keeps witches and witchcraft away.
Very cool.
Another common thing you find quite a lot.
To keep witches away. That's funny because it sounds like witchcraft to make it happen.
Yeah.
So you need to,
It's a spell. It's a spell bottle.
yeah, you'd have to ask a witch to make a spell to keep witches away. It's not a good way to do
Make
that.
it make sense. I don't think we need to worry. It seems to be in much older houses than our home.
Yes, I would hope so. Although we do have the cavity wall. Maybe the cavity wall's full of witches. Witches? Full of cats.
I don't think our walls are full of witches or cats.
No, they are full of dead wasps because there was a wasp nest in it.
Let's not think about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, they found cats in the walls of the basement of the
There you
castle.
go. And a storm's coming in. Our beautiful sunny weather has given up.
It's very grey.
It's getting spooky in here.
We are getting towards the spooky portion of the episode, so it is fitting. Around 1940, Comlongon Castle started being used by Barnardo's, the children's charity,
Oh,
as a children's home and an evacuation centre during World War II.
that's nice.
I looked into Barnardo's a little bit. And it was started by an Irishman called Thomas John Barnardo. And he started the charity basically after becoming horrified at the conditions that he saw children were living in during the 18 and 1900s.
Oh.
And he saw like the poverty they were living in and the state of their health. And basically, I think he saw that they really didn't have a hope. So he wanted to provide children with a safe place to live and somewhere to get an education.
That's nice. I didn't think it was that old as a charity.
Yeah, it's been around a long time. And this was a big deal because this is the Victorian period. And during this time, if you were poor, then it was directly because you were a bad person.
Oh,
That was the belief.
Oh no, that's a shame.
Like you weren't virtuous, or you didn't lead a good life, or you didn't work hard enough. And I'm not going to say people used to think this, because there's still a lot of people who believe things similar to this now.
Yeah.
But particularly during the Victorian era, if you were poor, then you must deserve it, or you did something wrong, or you're just not trying hard enough to not be poor.
Oh,
Which in turn really harmed the help that people could receive, because if you were going to get aid, you had to be deemed worthy of it.
ooh,
It wasn't just given to you.
that's rough.
So it meant that a lot of people didn't get the help that they needed because people believed things that weren't true.
Damn. And then once you start to believe them yourself, you're done for, aren't you? Oh no, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was a common belief at the time. So Barnardo was trying to take children out of lives where they didn't have any opportunity.
That's nice.
And I'm sure there were a lot of issues with his system, like boys and girls were segregated, and I imagine it was... I don't know. I don't really know what I'm saying. It probably wasn't a perfect system is what I'm saying, because you're still taking children away from families or isolating them somewhat, but he tried.
That's all you can do. And if this charity's still about over 100 years later, so it's doing something good.
Yeah, they still help children. They do a lot to protect children from like sexual exploitation.
Oh yeah.
And sex trafficking, I saw, which I think is great. Yeah, they do a lot still.
That's cool.
He died in 1905.
Okay.
So it was his charity that took on Comlongon Castle rather than him personally. It had grown to more than just him by that point, and they took it on. And this was one of the places that children were sent to during World War II when the big cities were being bombed. The Blitz and everything. It wasn't really safe to be in a city or near a port, or there were certain places, power plants, munitions factories, things like that. They were targets for bombs. So evacuees were taken away from cities and their families and into more rural locations.
Yep.
And Comlongon was one of them.
Nice.
And it housed children who were under 5 years old.
Okay.
And apparently a lot of them were from Liverpool.
Random.
Well, I guess it makes sense. Because if you're trying to organise something on that scale, you would take children, like, okay, from this place, you're all going here.
That would be easier. Just kind of scoop them all up at once and put them in the same place.
Kind of.
Then distribute them appropriately.
I remember my mum talking to war evacuees in Kingussie.
Oh, yeah?
And Newton Moor, where my mum grew up. She talked to them for a school project.
Wow.
And I think they had moved up north to be evacuated and then never left because they preferred it.
Yeah. Happened to quite a few people, I think. Because it's bitching up here.
It is pretty sweet. But yeah, she remembers talking to them and finding out their story and hearing it straight from them.
Very cool.
Which, as more time passes, becomes more incredible.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this time period at Comlongon was actually discussed on a TV show called Long Lost Family.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you've ever watched that. Davina McCall hosts it.
No, I don't know it.
Basically reuniting families who've become estranged and lost each other.
Oh, wow.
And on the show, there was a guy and he was trying to find his brother because the two of them had been orphaned and they both stayed at Comlongon during the war, I think, or like up until the 50s. So it was on the show and he was trying to find his brother. I assume he found him, but I haven't watched the episode.
I know. That would be mental. Can you even imagine that?
No.
Knowing you have a sibling, but not knowing where they are.
Or like being so close to someone and then just losing track.
Yeah.
Not able to find them again.
Yeah, you literally just lost them.
Oh, I would hate that. Wouldn't like that at all. Especially because I'm the older sibling. My sister's quite a bit younger than me. I would hate that. She annoys me, but I don't want to lose her. Don't want her to get lost.
And just like that as well, just to get lost.
Yeah.
It's not like you had a Barney and became estranged. Like, oh, yeah, they live there. I don't speak to them.
You just got separated.
Yeah.
Yeesh. No.
Nasty.
No. When the war was over, it ended in 1945, Comlongon was still owned by Bernardo's, from what I saw, and they were training nursery staff. I think children were still kept there. It was still a children's home, and they had it until 1952.
Cool. How did they get hold of it?
No idea. No idea. I don't know if it was like on loan or if they like bought it, rented it. I'm not sure.
But they had it till the 50s.
They were using it until then, whether or not they owned it or rented it. I think they must have rented it or something because it went back to the Earl of Mansfield, the Murray family. They owned it again.
Yeah, maybe it was, like you said, on loan.
Maybe.
The way things go to museums and that.
Yeah. I'm not sure. And from 1952 to 1984, it's another quiet period because Bernardo's wasn't using it anymore and it wasn't lived in. It was still owned by the Earl, but they didn't live there. It wasn't really tended to, so it had 30 years of no use and once again was neglected and unlivable.
Fell into ruin. It's such a waste. Especially to have it doing good and then just doing nothing.
Yeah. I don't really know what happened there. I couldn't see why they stopped using it.
Yeah.
Like maybe it wasn't feasible. Maybe it wasn't in a good state to live in anymore. Maybe it wasn't safe. But in 1984, Comlongon Castle was bought by a man called Tony Pitalomi.
Tony Pitalomi.
Like the philosopher.
Oh,
Ptolemy?
yeah. I've always thought...
Ptolemy?
Might just be Ptolemy.
Ptolomey.
Yeah, Ptolemy.
Ptolemy. We've said every version, so one of them has to be right.
It's like pterodactyl, you know?
Tony is an interesting character. I peeled back the layers of getting to know him through my research, and he wasn't what I expected. Initially, when I was writing this, I was just going to write that he bought the castle. But then I looked into him personally. I was just like, what? Who is this guy? He used to be an Oxford lecturer. Mm-hmm. He taught medieval history, which makes sense.
Perfect owner for a castle, yep.
But on top of lecturing medieval history at Oxford, he also made suits of armour.
Very cool.
Metal suits of armour.
Nice.
I'm assuming historically accurate, because duh. But yeah, he was an armourer.
That's badass.
And I saw videos of him on YouTube that are still there of him making these suits.
Forging the suits of armour. I wanted to do that when I was wee. Wanted to be a blacksmith.
Oh yeah. You still could. You still have time.
Yeah. I always used to wish it was still a job. I mean, it's still sort of a job, but...
It's a lot more niche now, I feel.
Yeah.
It's more of a craft than an essential.
Yeah.
But then it depends the circles you run in. I'm sure there's still a lot of people that depend on a blacksmith for certain things.
Maybe.
But yeah, he built suits of armour.
That's badass.
And then in 1984, he and his family bought Comlongon from the Murray family to run it as a hotel.
Oh. Well, there you go. That's not the turn I expected.
Yeah, hotel.
Very
and they
cool.
spent a long time renovating it because there was a lot of work that had to be done to the castle.
I bet.
To have it in a decent state. Like, they had to redo the roof, and there was plants growing everywhere all the way through it. It was not good. I can't even imagine how much that must have cost.
No. You periodically see the really old buildings like that going up for sale.
Yeah.
And they start like, oh yeah, ancient mansion on sale for £1 million, needs extensive work. And then a year or two goes by, for sale, £500,000.
I know.
Because it needs millions of work on top.
There's very few people who would be able to take that on.
Yeah.
But they managed it. It was functioning as a hotel.
Fair play.
And over time, it became a really popular wedding venue.
Yeah.
Partly because it's a big castle, and Scottish castle weddings are always attractive and popular.
Always cool.
But Comlongon is also only 17 miles away from Gretna Green.
Oh. Very cool.
Which we've never talked about in the podcast before. And
Nope.
I think I'm going to keep the story of Gretna Green for a mini episode.
Ooh, very cool.
Because it's not quite enough to flesh out a full episode. So that will be on Patreon sometime.
Very cool.
I have all the research, I have everything together. I will record it for Patreon.
Nice, that sounds good.
If you didn't know, Gretna Green is a place that's very popular for elopements.
Yeah.
And secret marriages. There's a whole history there.
That's where my parents got married. They went to Gretna Green.
So yeah, it's not far from Gretna Green. So people might go to Gretna Green to get married and then have a party at Comlongon.
Yeah. That's really smart.
Yeah. Unfortunately, though, despite the romance and the intrigue of the castle, it closed in 2019.
Oh no, COVID?
No, 2019, before COVID. Because Tony and his family, I think he had passed the hotel on to his son by this point, Philip. He was running it. They came into serious financial trouble and were hit with a big lawsuit, which I read all the pages of, by the way. It was spicy.
Was that the employment tribunal?
Yeah. And so they were hit with that, and they were already not doing well. They had to declare bankruptcy.
Oofed.
And a lot of the weddings were just cancelled.
Oh, that'd be a shame.
Well, think about it for a second. Cancelled in 2019. Yeah. Okay, we will reschedule for 2020. There's a pandemic now. Let's reschedule for 2021.
Oh no.
Everything is still shut. And now 2022, everything will be booked for the next 10 years because nobody could get married.
Oh.
So I sincerely hope that like weddings that were cancelled there were able to be rebooked before COVID.
Yeah. Oh, that's a shame.
Such a shame.
That is a shame. Well, I came in to the office a couple of days ago while you were researching, and you just looked up and shook your head and went, oh, what's wrong? It's, I'm just getting way too into this like lawsuit that happened that it's not really relevant. I found what I need to know. It's just spicy and I'm into it.
I want to know what happened. So I kept reading and I didn't need to. And then realised how much time I'd sunk into it, being like, come on, move on.
Well, give us a brief. What was the...
It was a case of unfair dismissal.
Oh.
And they had to pay out about 40 grand.
Ooh, that's tough.
And the documents are online, the court documents. You can go and look at them if you like. I did. I don't really know why.
That won't be a mini episode.
No. It's not my business at all. I'm just nosy. The castle went up for sale in 2019, just like you said happens, because it was posted for £1.1 million.
Oh, yeah.
And as of today, it's still not owned by anybody. I saw on a property site a couple days ago in my research that it's apparently under offer, but it's been under offer for about 8 months and still not sold. So we'll see what happens moving forward, but it's not owned by anybody, it's not being kept, it's not open, and that's been 3 years.
Well, it's a hard sell mid-pandemic. Perhaps we're now towards the end of the pandemic with a bit of luck.
I don't know, cases are going up again. I have no idea.
No idea at all. But mid-pandemic, would you like to buy an unprofitable hotel for £1 million?
I know, like May 2020.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
I don't want to do that.
Yeah, so that's the state of the castle today. It's abandoned, basically.
Mental. Well, where does a green lady come into it?
Well, exactly. That's the future and the present that we're talking about. To get into the spooky reputation of the castle, we have to look at the past.
I think the Black Lady came from, she was like the late 1800s, I think, when the woman lived there who's thought to be...
I think so,
I think it was like
yes.
late 1800s, early 1900s.
I can't remember now. It was a while ago since we talked about it.
Yeah, because we wondered if it was like the Boer War. Because I think it was pre-World War One.
I think the Boer War was the late 1800s.
Yeah, it was like 1880,
I'm not sure.
1890. Not sure.
Well,
no.
for this, we have to go back to the 1500s.
Oh, all the way back.
It's much older. And you might have been thinking that this is going to be a really short episode because I've already whipped through all of the history of the castle. But this is the best bit. This is what the castle is known for.
Here's the juicy bits. I'm surprised there's as many details as you alluded that there were, if it was 1500s.
I've had to piece a lot of it together.
Yeah, I bet.
And I feel like I say this every time, but there are different versions of every story.
Yeah.
I've gone with what seems the most plausible and what I've been able to back up the most. But it's tricky.
Yeah, I'm just done the Scottish thing and just gone for the best story.
I could have. And a lot of people do. There's a lot of people who have retold the story that I'm now looking at going, that's not what happened. But, they're telling the best version, so can't really blame them.
That's what I do.
So, now I'm going to tell you about Marion Carruthers, who apparently is the Green Lady haunting Comlongon Castle.
Interesting.
So, I said it's abandoned. Not really.
So the proposition to buy it today is for an unprofitable hotel during a pandemic that's haunted. It's a tough sell.
See, we got the right person. Have it as a Halloween event all the way around, all year round.
Haunted mansion.
Yeah. I want to go. I want to see it. We are all the way back in 1517.
Yep.
A man called Simon Carruthers was born. And in 1531, he succeeded his father when he died and became the 10th Carruther of Mouseld.
Cool.
Which was their estate. But it's spelled Mouswald.
Oh.
By checked, and apparently it's pronounced Mouseld.
I've not heard that name before.
Me neither. It was their family seat, their family estate, and it's also near Dumfries, near Comlongon. It's a different estate and a different family we're talking about now, but it's neighbouring-ish. As much as estates can neighbour each other.
Yeah.
Because they're massive.
Yeah.
In 1538, Simon married a woman called Agnes Murray, who was the daughter of the Cuthbert that we mentioned earlier.
Yep.
His daughter, the guy credited with building Comlongon, his daughter Agnes married Simon. And then in 1540, they had a daughter called Janet.
Yep.
And in 1541, their second daughter, Marion, was born.
Cue spooky music.
The Carruthers were... Carruthers, I'll stick with one. They were an old, powerful family. They'd been at Mouseld for over 200 years. Long lineage, long history. But the history of the Carruthers at Mouseld would end when Simon died in 1548.
Oh.
Apparently in a border raid. The raids that we were talking about earlier. Another version of the story said he died in 1563. But from the rest of the information I have, it seems like 1548 was more likely.
Okay.
He died. At this point, I think Agnes was already dead. Because when Simon died, the Museld estate was left to their 2 daughters.
Mm-hmm.
It was to be split evenly between them. And I assume this wouldn't have happened if their mother was still living.
Presumably not.
So it would have gone to her.
Mm-hmm.
But he died in 1548, and the girls were only 8 and 7, respectively, at this point.
Oh, wow.
They were very young, still really young children. They couldn't negotiate the division of an estate. They definitely couldn't have run an estate or even a home. Like, they're babies. Somebody needed to intervene and help them.
Yes.
Help
I know,
them.
there's always someone, generous benefactor who can step in completely selflessly.
Oh, I know. And if you couldn't see it, 2 young heiresses set to inherit a large estate were a very attractive prospect for anyone who was wanting to improve their own situation.
Yes. Right, who's the schemy bastard? Who is it?
Well, first, I'm believing, and I could be wrong, I think at this time, if a woman got married, her property came under the ownership of her husband. Like, she didn't own things for herself. I think that's the way that things went. Mm-hmm. But I'm quite happy to be wrong on that. If I am, please tell me. But that's the impression I'm under. But back to you, schemy bastard.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm not a schemy bastard.
Schemy bastard. Sir James Douglas of Drumlanrig enters our story. I will probably refer to him as Douglas. Drumlanrig was another estate about 25 miles away from Museld. So again, in the area, in and around Dumfries.
Yep.
You know where I am.
Near Ecclefechan.
Nearish Ecclefechan, yes. Very big estate, very beautiful. There's a huge ornate castle at Drumlanrig, which they actually used in Outlander, if you're interested. It's cool. In season 2. They filmed there because it's a huge big palace building. I think they used it as a stand-in for Versailles, but I'm not really sure. From what I could tell, James, the Douglas we're talking about, was descended from the Douglases we talked about in the Stirling Castle episode.
I was holding my tongue not to make the same joke again about being Douglas.
But there are a couple of different branches of Douglases. Mm-hmm. It's split off at one point. They both have the surname, and they didn't really get along.
Classic.
So it's a bit iffy.
Mm-hmm.
He had 18 children.
Oh, wow.
With 2 wives over the course of his life. I hiccuped. And I thought this was unusual. Maybe you won't find it as unusual as I did. But he got divorced from his first wife in 1539.
I assume she died.
He got divorced.
That's unusual, isn't it?
It must have been one of the very first divorces.
Yeah.
I checked. Henry VIII was the one who introduced legal divorce. He had his marriage to Catherine of Aragon annulled in 1533.
And this is 38, did you say?
39.
Damn.
And maybe this is too much of a tangent, but I thought it was interesting because I don't think I've come across someone getting divorced at this time period before.
No.
Like, not every married couple was in love during this time. Like, a lot of them hated each other, or like one of them dies of illness because illness was rampant, or they just murder each other.
Why assume with him having that many kids, she died in childbirth?
No, they got divorced.
Oh.
Which I just thought that was surprising.
Yeah,
I wanted to bring it up because I haven't come across that before.
I find that surprising.
Anyway, Douglas was a powerful man because he was part of the Douglas family who had a huge amount of influence in Scotland, which we talked about in the Stirling Castle episode. If you want to know a bit more, that's probably what I would listen to. And he was very ambitious. He already had Drumlanrig, this big, beautiful estate with a big castle, but he wanted to extend his property and his influence. He was greedy. He wanted more and more.
Yep.
And, he would do exactly this over his lifetime. He had a lot of land and built his influence until he died. But in 1548, when Simon died, in Douglas's eyes, Museld effectively just came up for sale. On the 13th of August, 1548, James, Douglas even, really went above and beyond in how much he cared and thought about Janet and Marion. A class act. He was really concerned with the two of them.
Oh, schemy bastard.
He proposed that he become the girl's guardian. He offered to take care of them and welcome them into his home and ensure they were provided for as they grew up, which is what makes me think that their mother must have been dead at this point.
Yes, that suggests so.
Because otherwise, why would this happen?
No, it wouldn't happen quite like that.
And you're right if you are suspicious of this arrangement that Douglas has proposed. Good detective brain if you are. He sent his proposal to take the girls under his care to Queen Mary herself. Mary, Queen of Scots, because we're in the 1500s.
Yep.
So that's another tick on your bingo card if you have one. And he agreed to become the girls' ward. But in return, he would be allowed to negotiate their future marriages.
Oh, well, that's very generous of him, isn't it? That doesn't have any influence at all.
How sick is that? That's too much power.
Yeah, that's really weird.
Because in his mind, and the mind of everyone at that time, because this was allowed to happen, he was the one who was taking care of them. He was their guardian. He was raising them and clothing them and feeding them. So he would be best placed to say who they can and can't marry.
I mean, is he doing that, or is he just dumping them onto his servants with his other 18 children?
Yeah, he's not raising anybody.
He probably won't speak to them again until they're of marriageable age.
Yeah, he's not their father figure.
No, he's just an arsehole.
But he's providing for them.
Yes.
And the Queen agreed. She said this would be fine, that he would have the right to create their marriage contracts and things, but he had to pay £3,000 to take the girls in.
Who to?
I don't know. I think the Privy Council. I'm not really sure where this £3,000 was supposed to go, but he had to pay for the privilege of taking the girls in. And he had to commit to support the girls until they were legally old enough to get married. That was the deal.
Yeah.
Now, remember, this is the medieval era, and marriage happened a bit differently then than it does now.
I was thinking it's probably not that many years until they're marriageable.
Marriage depended a lot on when a child, male or female, hit puberty.
Oh, yeah.
Because marriage wasn't about love necessarily. It was about stability and lineage, legacy and money. It was financial a lot of the time because women were kind of fucked.
Yeah.
You couldn't earn your own money, you couldn't own your own things, you needed a husband. In a very different way to how we understand it now.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, I read, and this is sickening, a girl from a more typical, not well-off family could get married off as young as 9.
Oh, no.
Which is awful.
That is awful. Oh.
Which is why I highly encourage you look into and support the charities that are trying to end child marriages in countries around the world today.
Yeah.
Please look into it. Please donate, because it's sickening.
Yep.
Because this was in the 1500s, but there are places where it's still happening.
That seems reasonable.
For girls of the Carruthers status, because they're much higher up the social hierarchy, then marriage would usually happen when they were between 14 and 18.
Around 13 or 14 is what I was expecting.
Yeah, that was more typical. Still not right.
No.
That was more typical. And for boys, it was slightly different. If they were noble, then they were generally married between 16 and 21. So a bit older on the scale. But still children.
Still children.
And you can probably guess that Douglas wasn't really concerned that the girls went into marriages for love.
No.
Or if they were happy. Because he wanted their land.
Yeah, I'm assuming he's going to marry them to his children.
Yeah, that's all he cared about. That's all he wanted.
Yep.
So when the time came that they would finally be ready to marry, he was thinking ahead. He planned to marry them to men who were, he'd already picked them, who were loyal to him, who had sworn oaths to him to be the girls' husbands. And then Museld would be signed over to him because they had pledged fealty to him.
Yep.
So not to his sons.
No.
But
still to him.
People under his control.
Yeah.
That was his plan. He already had it lined up. It sounds diabolical, frankly.
Yeah. It's a proper, villain origin story.
Yeah. So the girls were put into his care. I think at Drumlanrig, that could be wrong, but they had to leave their home. And they were under his control.
Horrendous.
Now, I also read that Lord Maxwell, who was a guy who owned a different estate nearby, because everything there is an estate, it's just driving me insane, he believed that he should be allowed to have Museld estate From what I could see, just reasons.
Yeah.
He believed that he should be allowed to take it over. And he had the nerve to move into the big house on Museld Estate and just kind of claim it because he wanted to have it now that the girls were gone.
Yes, I declare the law of finders keepers, and there's nobody here, so now I'm here, like a boat drifting at sea.
Yeah, I don't really know what the thinking was there, that because he might have been closest. I really don't know, but he had the nerve to try and move in and just take it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just because he wanted it. He had no more claim than this other Douglas guy has.
Look, I have money and a penis. This is obviously mine.
Yeah. Oh, it's pretty near mine, though. Like, we share a fence, so I might as well just take this.
But he was kicked out eventually. He didn't get ownership of the estate. Even though he tried. He really tried it.
Yeah.
I imagine him being very much the type of person you want to slap.
Yes.
You know, just like frustrating and selfish.
Yeah, and just, what are you doing? I'm not thought through enough. You know, at least Douglas has a plan. As diabolical as it is.
He's playing the long game.
Yeah. He's not just like, I might just take this. What do you mean you're just going to take this? Like, yeah, there's nobody here. What if I just go in? They can't make me leave. I think they can.
So cheeky.
Yeah, very cheeky.
So cheeky. 1557. This is 9 years after the death of the girl's father. They're 13 and 14. Janet's older, and she's 14, and she's now of marriageable age. And the girls weren't happy with how they had been living. With the help of their uncles, who were all Murrays, Charles, Cuthbert and Archibald, of Comlongon, they basically took a protest on behalf of the girls to the Privy Council, saying that the care that Douglas had given them over the years wasn't up to par.
Yeah.
In the hopes that they could then protest against the rest of the agreement by saying that he hadn't done his job. The uncles argued that the girls had basically been completely isolated. They were never allowed to leave Drumlanrig. They weren't allowed to go see their friends. They couldn't keep in touch with anyone. They'd been kept like prisoners, although they had been clothed and fed. But arguably more important, which was just a sentence in the document I read, but the girls weren't allowed to attend to their affairs. Which I take to mean they couldn't make decisions or interact in any way with what was going on in their home.
Yes.
They weren't allowed to attend to anything. They weren't allowed to be involved in any of that.
Yeah.
Which I took to mean that Douglas was keeping them from the running of their estate.
Yep.
Even though they were young.
Yeah.
But he was keeping them from it.
Not good.
So the uncles argued that this wasn't okay.
You wonder why they didn't go to the uncles in the first place. They're just, because that's what would happen now. Rather than some randomer coming in to be like, I'll be their guardian. Was it, well, we're their family?
I don't know. I guess it's just money.
Yeah, probably.
Not sure.
Don't know.
Not sure at all. Yeah, like I said, I think this protest was taken to the Privy Council, who appears several times in this story. And the uncles wanted the council to order Douglas to bring the girls to Edinburgh so that they could plead their case and prove that Douglas had been mistreating them.
Yep.
But unfortunately, I'm not sure whether or not that actually happened. I don't know whether Douglas was ordered to do this. But nothing changed despite this protest, so I don't know.
It's because the Privy Council went, oh, we've already spent that £3,000. If we null his contract, we should probably give that back, and we don't want to.
Yeah. So the girls were still under Douglas's authority at this point. And now we're in 1560. It's quite a bit later.
Yep.
Janet is the elder sister, and she's 20. And she's about to be married off. Douglas came to Janet with a proposition. You know, he was concerned about her future and he wanted what was best for her. Now, I've written somewhat of a monologue for how this conversation went.
Okay.
And I think you're going to want to hear it because it's top-notch drama. You know, I'm a world-class playwright.
It's all very Game of Thrones so far. I'm
kind of is, yeah.
I'm involved.
So, Douglas, he says, Janet, I'm really worried about you. You're of age now, and this means that you're responsible for your half of the Museld estate. I know that you have no idea how to do anything, and that's because you're just not suited to this role, not because I've never let you learn how to do it or be involved in any way. Oh, and Museld is really close to the Scotland-England border, so you know what that means. Raids. He told her Museld is constantly being attacked by raiders and involved in conflict. It's not safe to live there. And a lot of the land that you remember being really nice and well kept has been destroyed by raiders. Terrible, terrible. It's not been looked after at all. Honestly, I don't see how you're going to make any money on it at all, Janet, because it's in such a bad state and you have no idea what you're doing.
Wow.
Isn't that cruel?
That is cruel.
So then he goes on and he says, actually, you know what? I know how to help you.
I'll do you a solid.
Yeah, no need to thank me. Just, I care about you. I have a plan to get you out of this mess that you've put yourself into. Why don't you marry this guy? Thomas Rorison of Bardenoch. And, I could organise that for you. I know him, actually. He's pledged fealty to me. Isn't that funny? Funny coincidence. And, I'll organise the whole thing. I'll talk to his family for you. I'll even give you a huge dowry to help you secure this excellent marriage that you would never have found without me. I'll help you.
This is painful.
Right? I think I'm going to get an Oscar for this one. So he went on to really seal the deal. To Janet, you're so welcome, you're so welcome. No, I don't need anything in return. Don't you worry. You don't need to give me anything. I just care about your health and happiness. Mm-hmm. Actually, you know what would be wonderful as a sort of a thank you to seal the deal? You know what I would really like? Your half of the Museld estate. Because I could just take it off your hands because, it's full of raiders. You're never going to make any money from it. You wouldn't have to worry about it anymore. And you can just go off and be happy with your husband that I've organised for you. And, after feeding you and clothing you almost your whole life, I bet you feel like you kind of owe me. I didn't actually say that, but I bet you feel like you owe me for all of these nice things I've done for you.
This is painful.
And scene.
That was good. I liked it.
Did you like that?
I did like that.
The DVD will be on sale in the lobby. And by that I mean the lobby of our house. Just over there.
Over there. I mean, that does sound pretty much exactly like it would have gone.
Yeah.
Like it sounds right.
In case you couldn't tell, that was a dramatised version. Dramatised version, sorry.
A dramatic retelling.
But it's roughly true. That is what happened. Douglas approached Janet with these arguments, laying it on thick about everything that he had done for her, and presented her with this marriage proposal. And it was a good marriage. It would have secured her for life. The guy had decent money. But Thomas Rorison was firmly in Douglas's camp. So he would have done what he asked him to do.
Oh yeah, it's just generous enough that he could convince himself he was actually doing her a solid. Mm-hmm.
It was a shame because he's queued up all of these nice things that he's done for her and is throwing them in her face.
Well, yeah, it's just master manipulation, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. You owe me. Especially for everything I've done for you.
She didn't have a choice, I don't imagine.
Exactly. So she's kind of in a sticky situation, and it seems like Janet wasn't stupid. Mm. She knew that Douglas could make her life very difficult. And she knew what he really wanted. She knew what he was after.
Yeah.
And you have to bear in mind that life would have been really hard for her as a single woman with no parents to rely on, having been kept away from her land and her inheritance. She hasn't really got much going for her.
No, not at all.
So on the 14th of March, 1560, Janet accepted Douglas's agreement formally. She signed the contract that he put to her. She agreed to marry Thomas and, crucially, agreed to sign over her half of the Museld estate to Douglas.
Oh, I hate it.
To effectively repay him for the services that he had done her in organising her marriage and putting up the dowry and raising her.
I hate it. I hate it. I hate it.
Right.
I don't even blame her, but I hate it.
I mean, it's an impossible situation, isn't it?
Yeah, like what else could she have done?
And it's really shady. In the contract that she signed, it's laid out how Museld was a dangerous place and it was worth basically nothing. Even though that was only partly true.
Yeah.
That it was near the border. But she would have been able to earn money running the estate.
Yeah.
But he made her think that that wasn't the case.
And it was probably not so much damaged by raiders as just fell into disrepair because there was no one there to look after it. Oh, what a schemy bastard.
So Janet was married off, and now Douglas has half of his dream. Half of it. Not long after this, Marion came of age. But the two sisters were not similar people.
Oh, okay.
This is where the tension and the drama kind of hikes up. Because Marion, from the very beginning, was determined that she would make her own decisions, and she wasn't going to be bullied by Douglas into doing what he wanted her to do. Presumably she had just seen what had happened to her sister like a year or two before, and she knew from the start that that wasn't how this was going to go.
Which is a tough one, because she now has to share it with him, no matter what she decides.
And it's at this point that we have the first major division between versions of this story.
Okay.
One of the versions, I think, makes a better, more dramatic story, which I think is why it's retold so often. But the other seems more true. But I'll tell you both. The first version, which is told pretty much everywhere I looked up the story, it's very popular, is that Marion was going to be forced into marrying Douglas himself. Like he was going to take over Museld estate by marrying her and taking it. And Marion didn't want to marry him because she knew that he didn't care a bit about her. He just wanted the land. That's version number one. The second version, which is one I'm more inclined to believe, is that in the same way he had dictated Janet's life, he had found a suitable husband for Marion.
Yeah.
Who was a man called John McMah of Dalpedder, who may have been Douglas's nephew, but I can't confirm it. And Dalpedder, I think, was further north than the other places we've talked about so far, but still within the region. And the reason I believe this second version more is because it's exactly what happened to Janet. That he found her a suitable husband who was loyal to him, so it makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense to me.
But quite often when the first version is told, in the story, Marion's father was forcing her to marry Douglas. That Marion's father arranged the marriage knowing that Douglas was powerful and had lots of money, and it would be a good joining of families. It would be financial sense. But from everything else I've seen, her father had nothing to do with it because he was dead.
Well, yeah, for a long time.
Yeah.
By all accounts.
And in this first version, the whole reason this comes about is because her dad organises this marriage.
Yeah, I think the second story makes more sense.
Well, yeah, because the whole reason that they're linked with Douglas in the first place is because their father died. So I think this has just been subject to like Chinese whispers. It's been told more and more. It's become more dramatic as time goes on, and you like to change a story to make it better if you're going to tell someone. So I think that's what's happened here.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't think Marion was supposed to marry Douglas himself. But if you have some proof that that's not the case, email me. I'm happy to look at it.
Show me the documentation.
Not even in an angry way. Like, I'd love to see it. Because if I haven't been able to find it, I want to know about it. So I believe that Douglas approached Marion with a very similar arrangement to what he presented Janet with. That he'd picked out a husband, and I saw somewhere that he agreed to give her an equal dowry to what he had given Janet to secure the marriage. However, for all of this to go through, Marion would be expected to hand over her half of the estate to repay Douglas for his kindness towards her.
Yeah, just the same again.
Yeah, exactly the same. Different names. Same shit. Because, nothing says kindness quite like keeping track of every nice thing you've ever done for someone.
I know, right?
And then throwing it in their face. He's a bad guy.
He's a bad guy.
And Marion knew it. She knew that he was bad news. She heard his proposal, everything he had to say, and she told him absolutely fucking not. I'm not doing that. I'm not going through with that.
Good on her.
She told Douglas that she would be picking her own husband. Thank you very much. And if at some point she didn't want to be in charge of Museld anymore, she would pass it on to someone on her own terms and in her own time. Douglas wouldn't be getting a thing from her.
Badass. I like it.
So you can imagine how thrilled Douglas was to hear all of this.
Yes.
Given his track record.
Is she going to be Rapunzel and put up into a tower and have to grow her hair long?
Kind of. He responded basically by keeping her on total lockdown.
Yeah.
He wouldn't let her leave Drumlanrig. He wouldn't let her talk to people because he was worried that she would find someone who supported her or would be able to talk to someone who could organise a marriage for her under his nose. If she got married to someone that didn't support Douglas, then she'd have an ally.
Yeah, and if she was married, like, it wouldn't be easy to get her to get divorced and then
Exactly.
remarried.
He would have no rights to that estate anymore
Yep.
if she got married to someone else.
What a bastard.
I know. So now we're around 1562-63. And I'm not really sure how it happened, but Marion had gotten away from the Drumlanrig estate and was living with someone who was called Lord Morton,
Oh, cool.
who I think, if I have the right Lord Morton in my head, he was the Lord Chancellor of Scotland.
Very cool.
And he was also a Douglas.
Okay.
So knowing that he was part of the Douglas family, I think Marion was being held with him
That seems likely.
as an ally of the Douglas she'd
Yeah.
been staying with. But that could be wrong. But also around this time, Marion apparently went to the Privy Council in Edinburgh again to Queen Mary herself, basically petitioning for freedom from Douglas.
Yeah.
Her uncle Charles Murray went with her. He championed her earlier. But again, I don't think it went well.
Oh, no.
Again, based on what happened next. That she didn't get what she wanted. Douglas also came to the same meeting, the same audience with the Privy Council. And he had the nerve to try and say that for the council to take Marion's argument and listen to her, she should have to be unmarried, for reasons.
Yeah.
And that if she was going to present her case, she should at least be in full possession of her lands.
Oh, what?
Which is shady because he's the reason that she's not.
Yeah. Look at her. She doesn't even own her whole estate.
Because she wasn't living there.
Yeah, so who owns the other half? Me.
So he was claiming that she should be living there and should be in control for her to be heard on what happens to the estate.
Oh, shady bastard. Fuck.
Right? He's a dick.
What a... rage.
Eventually the contract that Douglas had put together was presented to Marion again for her to have another look at after this Privy Council meeting, but she refused it again. She was like, no, I don't want to do that. I'm not going to. And a month later, Marion was at the Privy Council again.
Try again.
But this time she was asking for something a little different. She went to the council with a man called Lord Borthwick, who I think was at least distantly related to Marion. And he pleaded on her behalf for her to be placed in his care instead of with Douglas.
Very good.
He asked for Marion to be allowed to stay with him for the next 40 days. During which time she wouldn't be allowed to leave his side, his home at all. And if she did, without telling the council first, she would be fined £2,000.
Strange, but all right.
So it's kind of like house arrest.
Yes.
But she's at least not in the home of someone that she's in a dispute with anymore. The council agreed. She was allowed to stay with Lord Borthwick. And at the end of the 40 days, she was allowed to move on to a place called Annandale.
Okay.
Which was close to her Museld estate.
Oh.
And she went there, I think, because the area around Annandale, I think it was called the Court of Loch Mabin, which I mentioned earlier. It's in the area. She was there because Annandale was basically part of her estate. And she was trying to get her affairs in order.
Yeah.
To get in control of it and understand what she was working with.
Weird.
And what she could do.
Well, she's probably not been there since she was 7 or 8, whatever it was.
So she's trying to get closer to home. And trying to bring everything under control and on her terms.
She's having a go.
Yeah. But she wasn't free of Douglas yet. He still had a lot of influence over her. And he was not letting this go. He wanted the estate. And he wanted what he felt he was owed. Which I think is even worse.
Yes. Yeah, that's just believing your own myth, isn't it? Like, no, I am owed this. Like, I deserve this.
Yeah.
Like, no,
This is what's owed to me.
You're stealing it.
I've been wronged.
When you don't realise you're doing anything wrong, that's dangerous.
Yeah. In 1563, Douglas forced Marion to agree, legally, that she wouldn't marry, quote, a traitor or a broken man.
That doesn't sound good. Who gets to decide that?
I don't really know.
Yeah.
But I guess it was under the guise of I'm caring for you and I'm trying to care for your future, so don't marry someone who's going to take advantage of you.
Yeah.
And steal your estate.
Undertones of, I'll decide. Oh no,
Yeah.
he's a broken man, you can't marry him.
And if that advice was coming from someone nicer, it would be some pretty good advice.
Yeah.
But he was still trying to dictate her life and
Yep.
still trying to get his mitts on this land.
Oh.
Then, in May 1564, things became even more heated. So remember I said that Marion was trying to sort of get her ducks in a row and try and deal with her estate.
Yep.
It seems like she managed it
Oh.
because the main thing she was trying to do was make sure that Douglas didn't get her land. That's basically all she wanted. I don't even think she was set on living there. She just didn't want Douglas to have it. So, if you're in her scenario, what do you try to do to keep it away from him?
I don't even know. Maybe just, like, straight up just build a wall down half.
Yeah,
Maybe.
be like Hadrian.
Yeah, like, this is my half, that's your half.
This is my side and that's your side.
Yeah,
You're not allowed
you know.
to cross it.
You can't cross this line, it's mine. Or I honestly don't even know. Like, it's such a baffling and foreign situation to be in.
Well, Marion handed over her rights to Musel Estate to her uncle,
Oh shit.
Charles Murray, who I mentioned earlier.
Didn't see that coming.
She gave him her rights, her half, her deeds, so that Douglas couldn't get them.
Very nice.
Because he'd been helping her, and it seems like he actually cared about her.
Yes.
And was concerned for her welfare. So she gave her land to him.
Oh.
And in June of 1564, Queen Mary approved the change of hands. She said it was okay.
Very nice. Very nice.
Imagine being so high up the social order that the Queen herself is involved in your personal affairs.
I know, eh? That's a bit mental to think of. You can't just do things, you have to get the Queen's permission to do
Yeah.
them. That'd be kind of a lot. I'm quite happy having the Queen not in my business. She wouldn't care, I wouldn't care, you know.
Don't want no one in my business.
Yeah. We bought this house without having to ask the Queen first.
We did.
That was
thankfully.
nice.
So that's what she did. She gave up her rights just so he could get them.
Fair play.
And Douglas was furious.
I bet he was.
Absolutely furious at what happened. I think it was pretty immediately after it happened that he challenged the decision. He
Yeah.
was not having it. And his argument was that Marion legally couldn't give her lands away because he had been made her ward.
Yeah.
And he was given the right to dictate the marriage of her and her sister if he fulfilled his obligations at the other end, which he had done.
Yep.
So he was entitled to make that call, not her, legally, based on what had happened without Marion's permission.
I don't know which way it's going to go. Like, he's wrong, obviously, but I don't know if they're actually
But
going to uphold that. Yeah.
legally he's correct, because
Yeah.
that was a decision that was made. There was a contract, he paid, he fulfilled his end.
But where does it end? You know, if she's now well into her 20s, presumably.
Early
20s.
Early 20s. So he argued that because he had done everything he was supposed to and he had the right to organise her marriage, the arrangement between Marion and her uncle was illegal. It shouldn't have been allowed to happen in the first place, so it couldn't be upheld.
Ballsy to tell the Queen she's wrong.
Well, the Queen agreed with him.
Oh no.
He presented it to the Privy Council and they sided with him and said, oh yeah, that shouldn't have happened. We're going to nullify this changeover. Even Janet sided with him.
What? Oh no. I was wondering what she'd think of all this. If she's there just going, just marry him. It's not so bad. I married this guy. It's pretty good.
Maybe, I really don't know. I really feel for her because it would be very easy to paint her as the villain. Be like, oh, you gave up and you just did it. But like, it's hard to say what you would do.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you just want a happy life, you've already lost a lot. I can see why she made the decision she did.
Yeah, I don't think it's a clear decision or
Sorry.
an easy decision to fight.
But it must have been really difficult for Marion to see and hear her sister supporting Douglas instead of her.
Absolutely. That would have been horrible.
Maybe there was, you know that thing we talk about quite a lot where you have the bucket of crabs and they like pull each other
Yes.
back down into the bucket. I wonder if Janet saw Marion pursuing her freedom and regretted that she didn't do that. So felt like, no, you can't do that. I had to do this.
Yeah.
So you just have to
You have to lump
suck it up and just do it.
Quite possibly.
Maybe.
Yeah, I believe
a kind of resentment that she didn't fight for it, and now Marion might get everything she wanted.
Yeah.
I don't know, that's pure conjecture, but
Absolutely.
I can see how that would happen. So the approval that Marion had received to give her land away was rescinded, and she was told that that couldn't happen.
No.
Which was a major blow, considering that must have felt like a pretty ingenious way to solve her problem.
Yeah, especially when it got approved.
And then to have it taken away.
It's like having an offer come in for your ancient hotel, but it just stays under offer for 8 months, and you're like, no, we sold it already.
Marion was told that she had to stay with Lord Borthwick, who we talked about. She wasn't allowed to return to Museld, and she was being forced to agree to the marriage contract that Douglas had presented her. Because legally, there's nothing wrong with it.
That was the deal.
He had found her a good husband. It was a good match. He wasn't like pairing her with someone that they deemed unfair or inadequate. He'd found her a good husband like he promised. He had raised her like he promised. She was legally obligated to do what he said, even though she had had no part in the agreement.
Oh, horrendous.
But, do you think Marion's just going to roll over and take that?
No.
No, of course not. She escaped Borthwick. She ran
Nice.
away, and she ran to the home of her uncle, Charles Murray, who had supported her. She ran to Comlongon Castle.
Oh, here we are. I'd almost forgotten that's what we were circling around to.
Exactly. I set it up just that way.
You did. It worked. Oh, shit.
She's made it to Comlongon.
Where she makes her final stand. Maybe.
Her uncle agreed to hide her there. This is why I think he genuinely cared, because he's going against the law at this point by hiding her and keeping her. But he agreed to hide her, and he was trying to help her escape this marriage that had been proposed and the loss of her birthright. Because as soon as she gets married, it's gone.
Yeah, good man.
But by this point, she's kind of out of options. She's run away, but there's not really anywhere else left to run.
No, she's just on the lam.
She can't pursue anything legally because the final decision has been handed down that she has to marry who Douglas says. And the only small bit of freedom she has at this point is to spend the rest of her life in hiding.
Yeah.
Which is no life at all, really.
No.
Now, from what I saw, she spent at least a year or two at Comlongon, maybe more. But she had been ordered to marry and she was kind of forced into a corner. So, sadly, at some point between 1565 and 1570, Marion took her own life.
Oh. I did wonder if that's where it was going. That's sad.
Yeah, very. On the 25th of September, but the year is debated. I've seen different years given. Marion threw herself off the lookout tower of Comlongon Castle, and the official record of her death declared her death a suicide, and also said that the fall, quote, did break her head and bone, unquote.
Nasty.
Awful. Really, really awful. Now, according to the dates I saw, even given the scope of the years in which she could have died, she couldn't even have been 30.
Yeah.
She was really, really young. And because her death was ruled a suicide, a couple of things happened. Because this is the 1500s, remember. Firstly, people who took their own lives weren't given Christian burials at this time.
Oh, yeah.
Which is horrendous. It's like the ultimate cruelty in my head. She wouldn't have been buried on consecrated ground because her death would have been deemed like unholy.
Yeah, immoral.
Yeah, at the time, which is wrong.
Yeah.
Secondly, if someone took their own life at this point in history and of her status, their land and property were turned over to the crown.
Oh, I did wonder if she'd be able to leave a will or something.
They were effectively forfeit. They were handed back to the crown to deal with. And because of this, and the pre-existing arrangements that had been made for Museld, Marion's half of the estate was handed over to the Douglases.
No, after all that.
It seems like in October of 1570, Museld was given to William Douglas, who was James Douglas's son.
That's such a shame.
So James won.
Yeah.
Douglas won. He got what he wanted.
Took him a long time, but he got there. Oh, man.
Yep.
Well, that's a shame.
I was really rooting for her.
I know. I thought she was going to pull something together. Pull it out of the bag.
Nope.
Oh. Now I'm sad.
Well, there are some theories out there. A lot of people have discussed it, suggesting that Marion didn't take her own life at all. Because when you look at everything, it all worked out very conveniently and neatly for Douglas that her death was ruled a suicide. When you look at everything that happened for him.
Yeah, it does. It all comes round to back to him, doesn't it?
It's been suggested that Douglas hired people, to infiltrate the castle, whether by stealth or undercover. Lots of different theories out there. And that they were hired to push Marion off the castle, off the tower.
No.
To make it look like it was a suicide. Which then opened the way for Douglas to get what he wanted, because he knew the law. It was pretty common. And when you consider how determined she had been not to give him what he wanted, and she must have known the laws of the time too, there is an argument that that alone might have dissuaded her from taking her own life, knowing what would happen after.
Possibly. But I suppose equally she might have been tired after 12 years of trying.
Oh yeah, they're both likely. I don't know if I believe one more than another.
No, I don't think. I'm pretty even. Either could be true.
Yeah, and I think both are equally likely.
Yeah.
Because they were both as committed to what they wanted as the other, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's never been proven that Douglas had anything to do with her death. I don't really see how it could be proven now, unless some kind of secret document is unearthed from somewhere. So much time has passed and there was no real evidence at the time. I don't really see what they could have taken as evidence, really.
Seems unlikely.
So if he did have something to do with her death, then he got away with it.
Yes. Don't know what I think about that. Yeah, I'm on the fence.
Very sad.
Either way, very sad.
Very, very sad.
But it's sad events that lead you to ghosting.
Well, I did say earlier that Marion is said to be the ghost that haunts Comlongon Castle.
You did.
That she's the Green Lady. And knowing her story, I could well believe that someone who went through everything she went through would haunt a place after their death.
Yep.
I'd well believe it. Now, one of the reasons that people believe that the ghost that's seen at Comlongon is Marion is because she didn't receive a Christian burial.
Yep.
Remember? For a lot of people, this reason alone would be enough to cause a haunting.
Yep.
Because no one knows where she was actually buried. It was never marked or recorded. She wouldn't have been buried on consecrated ground. And in a lot of cultures and for a lot of people, that can create a ghost.
Yep.
Not very scientific language there, like create a ghost.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like, that's a reason.
Yeah, that's the situation that would lead to a ghost.
And she's been seen, heard and felt all over Comlongon Castle. Lots of people have come away from visiting the castle, not necessarily there to find a ghost. Remember, there's lots of weddings. People have been coming and going there for years. Lots of people come away having experienced something that they can't explain. And there's an overwhelming number of stories. It's a really, I don't want to say popular ghost sighting, but lots of people have stories of seeing her or feeling her or hearing her.
A common ghost.
And most people come away having had some sort of interaction or sighting of a woman. It's usually the same. And some people have met her and think that they've seen or followed or talked to a real woman. She looks that real, but she doesn't respond to anything they say or do.
That would be very unnerving.
Really creepy. Very creepy. Others have heard sobbing and wailing from places in the castle that they can't identify. They're from far away, so they can't see anyone, but it's always a woman who's crying or sobbing or wailing.
Spooky.
Now, for me, that would be one of the scariest. For me, that would make me leave.
Fair.
So I'd be like, nope. If someone sounded that tormented and you don't know who it is, and it's from a part of the castle that no one has any business being in at that time, but you know someone's... No. I'm out of there.
And I'd be beside you going, what? Didn't you hear that? Hear what?
I know. I'll need to find like a buddy to go on spooky field trips with.
Yeah.
Who'll like be right there with me.
But then maybe without me, you'd get too spooked and you wouldn't be able
Maybe.
to carry on. You just leave.
I just need someone to like, back me up, you know?
Do you feel that? Feel what? Oh, I hate you.
Because for me, if I heard that, I don't want to meet them. I don't want to run into them. I don't want to encounter them. I just want to leave.
Yeah, if I were to hear that and know that's what I was hearing, that would be very unnerving. Nope.
No. People have also talked about walking around the castle and feeling someone push past them,
Oh, yeah.
but nobody's there. So someone that walks into them, but there's no one.
That'd be weird.
Being nudged, pushed. And others have seen a ghostly green form wandering around the castle.
I was wondering why a green lady.
She's been seen and she's green. But for others, she looks very real.
Yeah.
It differs.
Bizarre. What colour was the lady in Stirling Castle again?
There are several. There's a green lady, there's a pink lady, and there's a black lady.
Oh, yeah.
But the most popular woman who's seen at Stirling is the green lady.
Yeah. We have another green lady.
Similar to this.
All the green ladies do something. I don't know.
Put your hands up. Now, there's a legend that at the spot where Marion fell, at the bottom of the lookout tower, because remember, that's real. The story is real. What happened to her really happened. At the spot where she fell, grass doesn't grow and has never grown. Now, I haven't been to Comlongon. You can't visit anymore. I can't speak to that. But it's a legend that's endured for years and years and years, that there is a spot where grass will not grow.
Interesting.
And it's where she fell.
Ooh. I don't know if you go in there now and they're like, yep, grass doesn't grow there. You're like, what? That's because you've concreted it. So no, we concreted it because grass wouldn't grow there. Well, now it's nothing. So this is a whole courtyard. There's no grass anywhere.
So you've turned this into a baseball diamond.
Yeah, like this
and
is
you've made this second base. That's why grass doesn't grow here.
This is the car park. Of course grass doesn't grow here.
So I'm not sure. I haven't seen it myself.
They know.
Because I haven't been, I don't know. But it's one of the legends that stuck around. And another one says that Marion hates the mention of James Douglas and Drumlanrig. That she still hates him with her whole being. And she won't tolerate any mention of him or anyone bringing anything linked to him to the castle. She'll lash out.
Yep, that seems fair. That seems likely.
Oh, I mean, he was a bad guy.
Yeah.
Don't blame her at all for holding that grudge.
No, and he drove her to suicide. So, she wouldn't want him being mentioned, anything to do with him.
A lingering hatred.
Yeah. Ooh.
It may have been a more fitting revenge to haunt his house.
I know, eh? It depends, like in fiction, how you have to have the rules of the world that can't be broken. So it depends what kind of rules you have for ghosts in real life.
Yeah.
Because I've always thought if there were ghosts, they would be tied to where they died, rather than travelling somewhere else. Because I wondered why she wouldn't haunt Museld. But what if she didn't die there? In my world, if ghosts were real, ghosts wouldn't be able to just go around the place.
It would be where they died. See, I wonder if... See, I don't know. I'm kind of... For me, it's 50-50 between that scenario or ghosts returning to places that meant something to them.
Yeah.
So you have a connection or you spent a lot of time there.
It's just the shadow of what happened there.
Yeah. Or like you have an emotional connection to a place and that's enough to bring you back.
Yeah.
Whether for good or bad.
It's just a weird one because there are no hard and fast rules.
See, because in our Black Lady of Lark Hall episode, she supposedly died at the house and now she haunts there.
Yeah.
So,
which to me makes sense.
But then we're getting on such a tangent now, most big famous people who have died, like Queen Mary.
That's exactly who was in my head.
Lots of different places claim that Queen Mary is haunting their big house or castle. But she didn't die in all of them.
Yeah, I think that's profitable.
You know what I mean? Like, they can't, if they are true, they can't all be true. But maybe they are.
But then it would be, if ghosts are real, presumably not every single sighting of a ghost is an actual ghost, and then the ghost people think it is. Like, people must be wrong. Like, no one's hard and fast about anything.
Yeah.
You know? Like, Nessie could be in Loch Ness, but not every sighting of Nessie is actually of her.
True.
You know?
It's tricky.
Tricky.
Very tricky. A group called, and this is a brilliant name, they really got that big brain energy. A group called Mostly Ghostly Investigations.
Nice.
Which I feel has generally spooky energy.
I was just thinking that. I'm like, oh yeah.
We should be friends. They held a couple of tours of Comlongon, ghost tours, and talking about the history of the castle on the anniversary of Marion's death in 2016.
Yep.
And I think they had a couple after, but there was a news article on this one in 2016. And it seemed like it was really cool. Really, really fun. They have like costumes, and they were taking people around and talking about the ghost story.
Very cool.
It reminded me a lot of what we did at Greyfriars.
Oh yeah.
It looked really fun. And in this article that I read, there were several testimonials from guests who were on the tour. So I thought I'd read you the things that they said.
Hit me.
While they were there. There was this very spooky feeling in the Great Hall, like cold air across the skin of my hand. I suddenly felt lightheaded, even though I felt fine 5 minutes earlier. It was a very unsettling feeling, unlike anything I had experienced before. I've also never picked up light anomalies on my phone before.
Spooky.
Spooky.
Light anomalies on your phone are just some nothings, but generally very spooky.
You can't say that. You don't know.
They're just nothing.
You don't know.
They're always...
You don't know.
I do know.
No, you don't.
I'm master of the universe, I know.
I can tell you that that's not true. Because if anyone is master of the universe, it's that boy in his bed over
that's
there.
true.
That's how I know that that's not true. If it was going to be anyone, it's going to be Odin.
Yeah, it's going to be the dog. I won't argue with that.
The next one said, while in the dungeon, I suddenly became hot and started to sweat. This is unusual for me, as I normally feel quite cold. It's hard to describe. There's a bad vibe. Something not right.
Menopause be like.
You don't get to comment. No uterus, no opinion. Boy.
That was just badness.
You look so pleased with yourself right now.
Got just the reaction I wanted.
I wish I could expose you. That grin. Okay, the next one said, on the night I thought I was okay until I started driving home and I realised that my nerves were completely shot.
That's unusual.
Well, you're a ham sandwich, yes?
Yep.
Even when we finished our ghost tour, you were hyped when we got back to the hotel. It took you a while to calm down because you naturally feel adrenaline.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just very hyped, as you said.
Yeah, so even you have to admit to feeling a bit like that. I wouldn't say your nerves were shot. My nerves were shot.
Your nerves were definitely shot.
But, like you came away and it took you a while to sort of get back down to your base,
I had to just
relax level again.
Calm down again.
Yeah.
I won't disagree with that.
The last one says, I felt awful. I had a pounding head and felt sick. I just wanted to get out of the room.
That seems like an experience you would have.
Yeah.
As reacting to spooky things.
You think?
I think so. While I'm beside you picking my nose.
Walk into a room, immediately vomit. Oh my god. No, that's just what she does, don't worry about it.
Yeah. She just needs to drink more water, don't worry.
I definitely don't drink enough water. What I will say, like I said, it sounds an awful lot like the Greyfriars tour that we took.
Yes.
Because a lot of people talked about feeling like that. And if you haven't listened to our Greyfriars episode, it was the premiere of season 2, episode 1. Highly recommend you give it a listen.
Worth a listen.
after what I experienced on that tour, I don't think I would ever poo-poo what anyone says.
Yeah, that's fair.
Taking a ghost, because like what I felt, it was so real and it creeped me out so badly. I am in no position to read anything like that and say, oh, but, you know, come on. Because it was real and it happened and it really scared me.
Yep, and that's fair.
And I know that you didn't feel like that.
No.
But I know I did.
Yeah.
And it was creepy.
Creepy. We should have to listen to that episode where we talk about it.
We should do another ghost tour.
Yes, we should.
That's what we should do. Mm-hmm. I also read on what I think was a different tour that they did of the castle, that a woman who, I think she was writing for BuzzFeed, she was touring around the castle, and she saw a child playing in a window, like in a room, playing with what looked like a bird cage, jumping around. And the woman discovered later, like the next day, that there were no children staying at the hotel.
Always spooky.
Mm-hmm. And the child that she saw would have been the age of the children who stayed at the children's home.
Oh, yeah.
So she got very creeped out.
That would be very creepy.
Spooky child.
That would just leave you a bit oogly.
Yep.
Leave you a bit just going, ugh.
I know, I wouldn't like that.
No.
Just seeing ominous figures. There's also a ghost photo from Comlongon.
Oh?
I feel like I'm treating you guys this season. Lots of ghost photos from everywhere. But I have very mixed feelings on ghost photos. I think they're always just fun to look at, even if they're hokum.
Yeah.
Like, they're just fun. Mm-hmm. And this photo, which I'll show you, Kieran, in a second, I think it was taken in the Great Hall, because it's in front of one of the big fireplaces in Comlongon.
Oh, yeah.
And when you look at it, there's a greenish white mist in front of the fireplace. And a lot of people have wondered if like those are skirts or a dress. And a lot of people think that this is a photo of Marion.
Ooh.
So I will show it to you now.
Hit me. So I haven't debunked anything in ages.
Ta-da!
Well, that's weird.
It's strange.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
Do you see what I mean, though?
Yeah, because it's casting its own shadow as well.
Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I think I said this in the Sterling episode. I don't know much about photography or double exposure or anything like that.
Yeah.
To say one way or the other. That's why I just think they're fun to look at.
Yeah, they're just satisfying, aren't they?
But, yeah. There is a ghost photo from Comlongon.
There you go. It'll be on the Instagram. Mm-hmm. It looks almost like a painting.
Yeah.
Rather than a photo.
I don't really know what to make of it.
No, it's really weird. I rate that spooky out of 10.
Spooky out of 10. Well, I mean, if you rate it spooky out of 10, then, you know, that's interesting.
Yep.
You don't really rate anything spooky. That's why I think it's in the Great Hall, because there's that big fireplace.
Yes, that's a big old fireplace.
And that's one of the places that people have seen Marion, who claim to have seen her. They've seen her there. But that is the story of Marion Carruthers, the Green Lady of Comlongon Castle.
Very sad.
It is very sad.
It's a very sad story.
It is sad. It's very unjust. I think that's what makes it so painful.
You feel for her, and you hate Douglas. Mm-hmm. What a bastard!
It really affected me as a woman.
I bet.
Just reading about them having their liberty and what they were entitled to.
Yeah.
Taken away.
It was their birthright.
Yeah. It was left to them by their father, and then someone took advantage.
Yeah.
It's not right.
Horrible. Absolutely horrible. Good episode, though.
Did you enjoy it, at least?
I did enjoy it.
In a weird way.
Yes. It was very interesting. I liked it a lot. It was good.
That's it.
That's it. I'll save all my further thoughts for after I've processed and into the blether.
Yes, over on Patreon, we record a little extra after the episode.
A little extra ditty.
Every week. Mm-hmm. And post it over there for you to listen to.
Yes, we do.
And we chat about the episode. Mm-hmm. Just whatever pops into our head. It's very informal and it's not scripted.
Yep.
So if you want to hear it, we're about to record it right now.
Yep.
If you want to hear it, join us on Patreon.
Yeah, there's a link in the description.
Mm-hmm. But If not, we will speak to you next week
Yes, we will.
with another episode.
Brand new spooky episode. Bye.
Bye.